yo. So they bomb another hospital. Let's talk about it. All right, so this is the destruction of the Baptist hospital, another hospital. And if you look at my Telegram, decolonization, doesn't show here, but go on my Telegram, it's the decolonization, okay, alchemy. All the evidence is there for all of y'all. I need you guys to make sure that you're watching this, okay? There's 36 hospitals that have been targeted already, okay? And it's all there, all the names, okay? We need to continue sharing. We need to keep talking about this because this is not, it should not be normal to bomb hospitals, okay? And also, like, the energy feels like it's more like a collective punishment because just remember that April the 12th of 2025 was a huge turnout for protests for people against genocide in Afghanistan. Like, there was a lot of, here even in Montreal, Ottawa as well, a huge protest. Like, we reached already the 3.5. Like, we're already reached, okay? Everybody's waking up and they're pissed off, right? That everybody's waking up, that, yeah. So the truth is exposed non-stop, and thanks to the Palestinians, the journalists, and everybody exposing this, because they have to show their abusers. This is what colonizers do, and this is what I talk about in that other video. If you go ahead and check it out, it's about eradicating white supremacy, and give you some pointers. That there's receipts. Go to my Telegram. There's plenty of receipts there.
Last night, Israel bombed Al-Ahli Hospital, the last working hospital in North Gaza. It was the only place with a CT scanner used to help doctors treat serious internal injuries. Now it's completely out of service. Its emergency units, surgical department, and oxygen generation station all in ruins. With no hospital left in the north of Gaza, people have nowhere to go when they are hurt, sick, or in need for urgent care. This means more lives will be lost, not just from bombs, but from wounds that can't be treated and illnesses that go without help. This is not just the loss of building, it's the loss of hope, safety, and the basic right to medical care. The attack on the hospital, Al-Ahli Hospital, overnight is a continuation of the Israeli army systematic targeting of healthcare facilities across the Gaza Strip since the genocide started on Palestine in October 2023. The medical care facilities are protected under humanitarian international law.
The destruction of Gaza's Al-Ahli Hospital by Israel is a war crime, an act of genocide against all humanity and the international law.
A lot of you are aware that the occupation bombed the Baptist hospital overnight, but thanks to the suppression on pretty much all of these platforms, that's where your information starts and stops. So I'm going to tell you a little story about just what the occupation did today. You see, the Baptist hospital started with a phone call from an Israeli officer who told them that they needed to evacuate the entire complex. They didn't tell them which building that they were going to target. They told them to get everybody out. They didn't even tell them how long they had. Did you know that 15 minutes elapsed in between the phone call and the bombing? 15 minutes to successfully evacuate all of those patients, many of which were children from their strikes on 𝓂The the day before. In the process of evacuation, a 13-year-old boy died. You see, the occupation has attacked this hospital several times, and because of that, they don't have the necessary equipment that they need in order to move these children. That's not even close to where it stops. As dawn rose, they decided that they were going to bomb 70 tents from an UNRWA aid distribution center in Beni Suheila. Almost immediately after that, they decided that they were going to bomb a civilian vehicle in Deir al-Balah, killing 7 aid workers. Those aid workers were in the middle of distributing firewood. Almost immediately after that, they decided that they were going to target a municipality center in Deir al-Balah. And then there was the Manoun family in Jabalia. There were so many martyrs and injuries from that strike alone that they didn't have enough room in the ambulance. A little girl of about 4 years old had to ride in the lap of the ambulance driver, who kept having to check and see if she was still breathing. If they had gone back for her, she wouldn't have made it. And then came their strikes on 𝓂The. Civil defense was already in the area, helping with martyrs and injuries from previous strikes, when the occupation decided to call them and inform them that they had 30 seconds to evacuate the area. Several members of civil defense as well as journalists were injured in those strikes. When a little girl with a severe head laceration, maybe about 3 years old, arrived to the Baptist hospital, she was turned away because the hospital had been put out of service. They had destroyed the emergency department, they had destroyed the pharmacy, they had destroyed the lab, they destroyed the oxygen generators, there was nowhere to put her, even the church had been destroyed. In this video, I just covered half of what was recorded. It's not even close to a third of what happens throughout a given day because the burden of proof is so strict that I can only report on what I see. This burden, by the way, is only ever placed on the Palestinian people. And if you're wondering, yes, this is a typical Sunday, and Monday, and Tuesday, and Wednesday.
All right, let's talk about this. Yeah. 147 countries, 75% has decided this is the state of Palestine. Just notice the pattern here, that is always the colonizers' energy, USA, okay? This needs to be the whole world, okay? Because in order for this, like this says, state of Palestine is recognized as a sovereign nation out of 193. We need to boost this up, okay? And the only way we can do that is economically doing this, okay? Boycotts work. Obviously, all these attacks that's happening, it's working, okay? State of the United Nations representing 75% of international community. It says it here. Recognizing Palestine, it's a global standard, it creates global standard, improves its capacity to hold accountable for the occupation, right? And pressure all the let go of that two-state solution, which is not. It's just not. It's all fake propaganda at this point. Oh my goodness. Sorry, my cat just catch a mouse and the rat. So a lot of you, that is the rat is gonna be exposed and yeah, very mutilated and dead. Oh wow, my cat is eating it. Okay, so yeah, we know who the rat is. Okay, let's work on this. We need Palestine to be free, and inshallah, it's going to be. Glory be to God. Another thing that we need to clear out, because word is important. Oh my God, this is not a war. Okay, this is genocide. We need to make that clear. It's not. This is genocide, Holocaust. Okay, and we need to make a stop. Okay, thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Bissam from Gaza from the day 552 of the genocide, and a couple of days ago I was here in Al-Ma'madani, Al-Ahli or Al-Arabi hospital documenting 𝓂وتhe massacre when about 55 people got killed, more than 100 people were injured and reached Al-Ma'madani hospital behind me, the only 100% still functioning hospital after the other hospitals in the north of Gaza Strip like Al-Shifa, Kamal Adwan, the Indonesian and 𝓂وتhe hospitals were raided more than one time, destroyed and out of service for a long period of time. Al-Ma'madani hospital was targeted before, at least twice before this time, but it was still functioning and receiving hundreds of sick people, elderlies, children every day, besides the high amount of injuries and killed Palestinians by the Israeli bombardment here. By the way, the Ma'madani hospital is not the only hospital that was targeted after resuming the genocide. Nasser hospital was targeted, which led to the destruction of a department in the emergency building inside Nasser hospital last week after the 18th of March. But here in Al-Ma'madani hospital, the emergency and ambulance building, the pharmacy and the laboratory, they were all destroyed. And a very important thing to say is that everything is destroyed in Gaza now cannot be replaced. Nothing is entering to the warehouses of the Ministry of Health. Nothing is entering to the hospitals. Nothing is entering to Gaza. Gaza is under a blockade, is besieged, and everything we lost here. The medicines, the beds, every single tiny tool cannot be replaced. We lost it forever, or at least until the borders are opened and anything is changed. This is the scene now in Al-Ma'madani hospital. 2 rockets destroyed 2 buildings. The yard where I was sitting only 2 days ago documenting the massacre of 𝓂وتhe again, and some parts of the church behind me, the Anglican church inside the Ma'madani hospital. You need to know that almost 34 hospitals now are out of service in Gaza Strip. 34 hospitals, clinics, health points are out of service in Gaza Strip, the north and the south. But maybe in the north we need to light more, because this was the last functioning hospital totally destroyed here in Gaza, in the north of Gaza. And by the way, just a historical hint that I really love to add, this hospital is a almost 100 years old hospital in the old city of Gaza. We lost today a very important site, historical site, let me say, and a very important place to give medications and treatment for the injuries and the Palestinians, the Gazans in these horrific conditions. Unfortunately, we lost it. As you see behind me, the amount of destruction. I'm gonna put more inserts. I'll keep you posted.
Israel has, for a long time, been one of many vassal states for the US, an unofficial extension of the empire, leading the way in new colonizing techniques trained on Palestinian subjects. But why does Israel matter?
Israel's a tiny country with a tiny population. People often wonder, why would so many nations want to go to a country which has got roughly 10 million people? America's got 340 million people. But because Israel has been occupying Palestine for so long, and I would argue what a lot of countries and police forces are going to in Israel is not just learning tactics, but the concept of getting away with it. So many nations, and I've heard this from many American police, really admire, if they're being honest, how Israel gets away with this. They've been occupying Palestine for more than half a century.
Unlike previous colonialisms, the biggest export that the Israeli state has given the US is a case study in successful ethno-religious nationalism. Not just in the means, the methods, the techniques of policing, and the technology to do it, but in the way to use these things towards a specific end and come out on top.
And this is what I talk about a lot, that Israel is not just selling weapons and surveillance. It's obviously selling that too, but Israel's also selling a concept, a model of ethno-nationalism. This idea somehow that we as a Jewish state should have the right to have a nation which prioritizes one group over anybody else.
American capitalism has always required violence and domination. We live in profoundly unequal times, and the brunt of that suffering has always been placed on those the powerful can discriminate against. And the more they do, the more resistance there is to that oppression, and so the more violent their repression becomes. Nationalism and all the associated fear of immigrants and minority groups has come out as the solution for politicians to justify that renewed escalation of violence. It quarantines those who protest it as part of some other group that we shouldn't have to think about because they're not us and we need to look out for our own. Don't fall for it. Our own has always only meant the rich and powerful. If things start somewhere out there in the colonies, it's only a matter of time before the circle of undesirables includes you.
A person who is not affiliated with Colombia, we've never seen him, we don't know who is this guy, comes down the stairs yelling, "Death to Jews." I was shocked, and I walked directly to the person and I told him, "You don't represent us because this is not something that we agree with." And directly what I've done, I took the megaphone and I gave a speech and I said, "We here are conscious, educated students, and we know how to separate right from wrong. And what this guy has said is wrong. What this guy has said is clearly anti-Semitic against Jews.
Anti-Semitic.
To be anti-Semitic is unjust. And the fight for the freedom of Palestine and the fight against anti-Semitism go hand in hand, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
are like fangirling over Bernie Sanders and AOC, you've completely lost the plot.
She is absolutely 100% correct. And I'm going to go even further. They're not actually helping. Okay? I see that they had that massive rally in LA yesterday and everybody is excited and freaking out. You even have Democratic establishment shills Harry Sisson, who insulted the squad and insulted the progressives, being like, yeah. But here's the thing. Their rallies aren't actually doing anything. What is this Fight Oligarchy tour about? How are they proposing people fight against the oligarchy? By voting for more Democrats. Democrats who participate in said oligarchy. Like, what are we doing here? And yes, I'm saying this as somebody currently wearing a Bernie Sanders sweatshirt because I don't throw shit away and I haven't been able to sell these yet. You don't even know how much Bernie Sanders fucking merch I have that I've collected since 2016, okay? So don't come in here and try to be like, you just hate Bernie Sanders, okay? I already spent all last week dealing with fucking Blue MAGA as they were crying and whining because they were so butthurt that I was criticizing Cory Booker. So I'm really not in the mood for anybody that is left of those shills coming in and starting to argue with me about AOC and Bernie Sanders, okay? Clearly, as I just explained, I used to be a massive Bernie Sanders supporter. I know this may blow some people's minds, but when a powerful politician starts doing things that are wrong, they should be held accountable. He has shown himself, just like AOC, to be fully willing to sheep herd people into the Democratic Party, no matter how heinous they act. They won't criticize Democrats by name, and when Bernie was asked whether or not AOC should primary Chuck Schumer, he got pissed and wanted to end the interview. Unacceptable. Not only has Bernie Sanders and AOC manufactured consent for this genocide every step of the way, but they were defending Joe Biden staying in the race. Don't forget that. In fact, Bernie Sanders in 2023 voted for a Senate resolution condemning the anti-genocide student protesters, calling them anti-Semitic and repugnant. Okay? So he has participated in this witch hunt and this onslaught against the pro-Palestinian protesters. He has helped bring about what is happening to the pro-Palestinian protesters and Mahmoud Khalil, and so is AOC, because she voted for this shit too. And also, Bernie Sanders voted to confirm Marco Rubio. Everybody voted to confirm him, who is the deranged person that deported Mahmoud Khalil and is trying to get him kicked out of the country. There has been no effective opposition to this genocide, whether it be under Biden or under Trump. They're not even fucking pretending to fight him. Bernie Sanders won't even call it a genocide at this late fucking day. So seriously, fuck him. And it's fuck AOC too, because don't think that we forgot about that fucking lie she told on behalf of the Harris campaign, claiming she was working tirelessly for a ceasefire when you knew that was a lie. So I know that a lot of liberals and people on the left, progressives, have a very, very hard time separating their love and their celebrification of politicians from their actual actions. But I'm not playing that game. And like I said, as somebody who used to love Bernie Sanders, supports Bernie Sanders, love AOC, support this squad, fuck them. Fuck all of them, because they have helped bring about this moment. The reason why the right wing has been able to be so despicable toward Gaza and the Palestinians has been aided and abetted by the left, by the progressives, by the Democrats, every fucking step of the way, including Bernie Sanders, including AOC. They're not going to do shit. They're not going to do shit to fight oligarchy. They're going to use that energy that they're getting people excited and hopeful about. I've been there. And they're going to redirect that back into the oligarchy via the Democratic Party. Spare me.
So it looks like the world is pretty much ending, right? Trump's back in power, cutting trans healthcare, banning books, defunding education, firing activists, banning people from flights, arresting people for saying free Palestine. And that's not to mention the genocide that's now back in full force, funded by your tax dollars. And that's not just in the US. I know we always put it on the Americans because America is the loudest about its support for Israel, but really anywhere you are in the colonial world, your taxes are contributing to the ongoing genocide in Gaza and elsewhere, like including the Sudan and Congo and Syria. And Syria is a whole conversation of its own. That'll need a whole deep dive on Russian, Iranian, and Turkish relations and politics and the interplay of those relations in Syria to actually understand what's going on. All the political details aside, though, a quiet genocide is happening in Syria of Christians and Alawites by the UK and US-backed HTS. Mark my words, though, the HTS puppets are just doing a job right now, and they're not going to be around for long. Now, all of this together sounds like your typical apocalyptic foreplay, the end of democracy, the beginning of the end of democracy as we know it. Let me tell you a little story, though, because remember, the above is of the below, and the below is of the above. And you'll see why that's relevant in a minute. So in 1788, France was drowning in debt, okay? And the king was pretty much just partying away his days while people starved. Bread was so expensive that mothers were selling their bodies for flour. And how did the royal government respond? By censoring people, by increasing surveillance, by arresting dissidents. Because when power knows that it's lost respect, that it's lost the consent, which is where its actual power lies, it resorts to fear. And the people in power, as always, thought that they could hold the people down with fear. But fear doesn't work forever. Within a year, the Bastille was stormed. Within 4 years, the monarchy was gone. And the revolution was bloody, and it wasn't perfect, and it ended with the rule of a dictator. But it also destroyed the old world, and it laid the groundwork for modern democracy. Now fast forward to 1968 America, the year MLK and RFK were assassinated. The whole of the US was on fire with riots because Vietnam was a freaking bloodbath. And how did the government respond? Increased surveillance and cracking down on dissidents. And then what happened? Come on, Americans. What came next? The Civil Rights Act, Stonewall, the fall of Nixon, the feminist movement, the end of the draft, because the above is of the below and the below is of the above. What we do down here and how we react down here informs what they do up there, how they deal with us, how they feel about their own power. Because power isn't in the hands of the powerful. It's in your consent. It's in each and every single one of us's choice to consent, to agree that yes, this man is the president, so we will listen to him. If every single person in America decided, this clown isn't my president, then he would have no power. The power of those above comes from the consent of those below, is born of the consent of those below. And that's why I've told you so many times, it's not as above, so below. There's no reflection. There's no mirror. It's not that they're bad, so we're bad. They're malicious because we're malicious. It's they are where they are because we put them there. Because a tyrant cannot rule a free people. It's because we're extracting our consent, because we're not falling for their narratives, that they need to crack down. The fact that they are cracking down is our clue that we are winning. Power has now resorted to the last card that it has: violence, force, fear. And when that runs out, then what? Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? The illusion of American democracy is falling apart. The Zionist narrative has crumbled quickly. No less than a year ago, you couldn't say a word about Israel without being called an anti-Semite. But people have already seen through the lies now. And that kind of mass global awareness that's just continuing to spread like wildfire, that doesn't go away. The above is of the below and the below is of the above. Because awareness is rising, they crack down with censorship. Why would they need to silence you if you weren't threatening their lies? The ICC is watching. Latin America is cutting ties with them. Public opinion is shifting fast and they want to scare you into stillness. That's the point. Because this is Nigredo, the first and the darkest stage of the alchemical process. This is the decay. This is the death, the breaking open. And we won't get to albedo, to clarity and purification and rebirth without going through this first. So I've already been yapping for like 6 minutes now, but I just want you to remember a couple of things, okay? First of all, they're louder because they're weaker, okay? Dying systems scream the loudest. Second of all, censorship means the truth is working. They don't silence what doesn't scare them. And thirdly, if you feel broken, so do I. That's part of it. The old world needs to break open for the new world to emerge. We just need to surrender and see the blessing in it, to create the new world ourselves, to create the world that we want. Connect with others in real life. Don't isolate. They want us isolated. They're working around every corner. The machine is waiting to isolate you. Find community. Build communal skills. Create mutual aid networks instead of relying on the nearest supermarket and Uber and making everything a transaction. Learn history and teach others what you learn. Knowledge spreads faster than fear. That's why they're defunding education. That's why they're cracking down on schools and universities, banning books. And knowledge is power, okay? And finally, protect your nervous system and practice joy. Joy is resistance. Joy is something that they can't take away from us, just like knowledge. They can't be taken away from us. And you don't help Palestine or the Sudan or the Congo or Syria or anybody in the world when you're just miserable all day and night. Being miserable watching videos and reading the news day and night doesn't necessarily help resistance. You want to know what's going on, but now that you know what's going on, start integrating it into your life. Have conversations. When you hear someone say something completely ignorant, challenge it, gently nudge them towards something a little bit more constructive. Inform them, inform the people around you. Have a Palestine movie night or a colonization movie night. I've already made a bunch of recommendations of films that are about Palestine or about colonization in general. Learn some Middle Eastern meals and have a dinner with your family. Call people Habibi, whatever you want, like, get creative with it. But ultimately, just remember one thing. Every empire has called itself eternal, and every empire has fallen. So no matter how this plays out, when the dust settles, what'll be left is what we've created, what we've built for ourselves and for each other. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me yap for 10 minutes, and let me know in the comments, what are you building for the new world as the old world dies? Where is the tyrant in your heart that needs dethroning? Share this with somebody who's losing hope. Maybe it'll help. Love you. Take care of each other.
The ultimate Israeli plan is to reconquer the Middle East to set up greater Israel. Right now they're working on Judea and Samaria, retaking this land from the Palestinians, illegally retaking it. They're invading Lebanon, invading the Golan Heights. They want to take over region of Saudi Arabia and Egypt, but there's Iran standing in their way. Hezbollah stands in their way. Hamas stands in their way. The 𝓂The stand in their way. And Israel isn't strong enough to take all of these groups on together. So they employ the United States of America to do their bidding. They've infiltrated the American government through AIPAC, through lobbies, through blackmail. Look all of this stuff up. What was Epstein? What was his background? That's going to shock you. So they use all of this. They've been coordinating it for 50 years until now they are ready to strike. They're ready to kill as many people as they need to. We see this in Gaza. For that little strip of land, they have killed 50,000 people, mostly women and children, so that these children cannot grow old and stand against Israel. This is such an easy plan to see. And until people wake up, until people see the obvious that is happening, it will continue. And 30 years down the future, and then 30 years down the future, when we see this actually unfold, we will look back on history, we will look back on the point in time now, and we will wonder, why didn't we do anything?